Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Ben Olson, that's Nathan Fox. We're the founders of LSATdemon.com and our weekly podcast, Thinking LSAT. We have an email here from Chris. The subject line is Personal Statement Commandments.
Good evening. I have reviewed the articles on personal statement commandments and listened to several Thinking LSAT podcast episodes in which Ben and Nathan reviewed student-submitted personal statements. In my initial draft, I am following the suggested I am, I did, I do, I will format, using an active voice and avoiding conclusion-based writing. Please don't think that you have to slavishly follow that suggestion. That was one suggestion of how somebody might structure a personal statement, where you basically say who you are today in a sentence or two. Then you go back and you tell a story. Here's what I did. Here's what I'm doing now. And at the very end, you might throw in a here's what I want to do with my JD.
Yeah.
Just a very simple template. It's not like that's magic or anything.
Yeah.
It's just that we want to keep you talking about your achievements.
Mm-hmm.
Chris continues. I don't know how admissions works in the US, but from listening to the podcast, I assume applicants submit the same personal statement to every school. Yeah. You don't have to. You can upload multiple personal statements and you can target them toward the schools. But most people are going to be better off with one personal statement.
Get it right. Get it nice.
Yeah.
And then send it. Yeah.
Slight caveat, some schools have, like Berkeley apparently accepts up to 4 pages and other schools don't. And so if you're really serious about Berkeley, you can maybe show them that you're serious about Berkeley by submitting a longer personal statement for that school that they know won't work at other schools.
So they know you're targeting them.
So pay attention to the actual questions that they ask you when you apply. In Canada, Chris says, each school has slightly different personal statement requirements. I have a base template, but I make amendments to meet each school's requirements. Many schools request that applicants address a variation of the question, quote, why are you interested in pursuing a legal education, and how will you contribute to the law school and the practice of law? Here are a few specific examples. So, from what I've read so far, I feel like any good personal statement is probably going to have a hint at that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not that hard to, by highlighting your achievements, I think they can probably infer what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, and you can always put in a sentence or two that explicitly connects the dots, but that's a lot more persuasive than I think what a lot of people do when they read this question, right? Why are you interested in pursuing a legal education? People just start talking about their beliefs or their ideals or something that's
they spiral off into this whole thing of like just about what nothing but their mental states.
Yeah. Oh, you want to hear about what I think? Oh, let me tell you what I think.
You want my opinions?
Yeah. I've always been excited about politics.
Yeah. Not a good idea. Yeah. Okay. So here are a few specific examples of what Chris is trying to highlight here. First one says, discuss why you are interested in pursuing a legal education and how you see yourself using your law degree. I mean, I think you can do that in one sentence.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a compliance officer or whatever it is that our previous episode had said. I want to be a public defender. I want to be a in-house counsel at a tech company. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you have an idea of what you exactly want to do, if that's in their prompt, I don't see why a sentence about that is not merited.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need to write 2 pages about that because it's all so speculative.
Yeah.
Like they don't need to hear a lot about what you're going to do because you're going to probably change your mind while you're in law school anyway. They just want to know if you have any credible case, any idea what you're getting yourself into.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Second one says, please tell us how you plan to contribute to the law school and the practice of law. You can discuss any of the following considerations that are relevant to your application: lived experience and work/volunteer experience that you will bring, or equity and diversity considerations. But do you have to talk about those things? I mean, the prompt is just asking you how you plan to contribute to law school and the practice of law.
Yeah. If you talk about what you've done and you talk about your work experience and how you were successful there, it becomes pretty obvious that you have talents and abilities that you're going to bring to law school.
What people don't understand is that law schools are in the business of selling law school.
Yep.
They have to fill all those seats every single year. And, you know, it's just not as competitive and not as prestigious as people think it is.
Hmm.
So I feel like if you write any sensible personal statement, you have answered that question in their mind.
Hmm.
Because again, they're the ones that sell law school for a living. So if you say anything that's like halfway sensible about what you've done and what you hope to do, then I think they're like, oh yeah, this person's going to be a perfect. They're answering the question. Okay, some more examples. Reflect on your identity and its intersections. Okay, that's different. Including but not limited to race, gender, socioeconomic status, disabilities, immigration status, religion, sexual orientation, etc., demonstrating how they have shaped how you will contribute to the law. It's kind of a silly question. I mean, if they want to ask you about your identity, that's one thing. But then, like, asking you to speculate on how that's going to impact the way that you contribute to the law, given that
You know
law
nothing
school
about.
applicants don't know anything. I mean,
Yeah.
like, even think about 1Ls or 2Ls or 3Ls. They're still like, they're not even baby lawyers yet. How can they ask you to speculate about something that isn't going to even be a reality for 5 years after you write this essay?
Yeah. I don't know.
That just seems like a strange prompt to me. I mean, it does seem like they want to hear about race, gender, socioeconomic status,
They're trying to
all of
figure out
those
a
things.
way to bring that in after the Supreme Court decision saying they couldn't look at it explicitly.
There is
Maybe
one word in there that makes me think that something slightly more nefarious might be at play.
immigration status,
Nope.
disabilities.
Hmm. Why might that be problematic?
You could reveal that you got accommodations for the LSAT.
Yeah, remember, they're not allowed to know that you have ADHD or dyslexia or whatever and
They're
got extra
allowed
time on the
to
LSAT.
know, they just aren't allowed to ask.
They're not allowed to ask that question.
Yeah.
That's right. And LSAC lost a lawsuit that, LSAC used to put an asterisk on your record when you got extra time.
Hmm.
That went away, what, 20 years ago now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that asterisk doesn't exist because of law. Well,
Hmm. Be-
that's in the United States, actually. Right. So I don't know what the deal. I mean, that was Americans with Disabilities Act is
Yeah.
where that suit came from. But
Yeah.
anyway, LSAC doesn't put the asterisk on your
Yeah.
record.
But the threat of law at least got them to agree
I've
not to
got to
put it.
think that Canada, if anything, is going to be more progressive than the United States on this issue.
Hmm.
So I'm sure that they're not allowed to know, or they're not allowed to ask you about your disability status. But they can throw it in there in the middle of this big chunk about where it seems like they're asking about your identity and its intersections.
Hmm.
But then you say something like, well, yeah, I've been diagnosed with ADHD and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, okay. So your 174 is maybe not as impressive as it seems. Next one says,
Wait.
tell it.
Sorry.
Oh,
I know this can seem superficial and petty, but the last two prompts are rife with punctuation errors, and it just really undermines my confidence in the schools that are putting these
I'm
together.
surprised you have any confidence left, Ben. Knowing what we know about law school, I'm shocked that you, I mean,
I don't know what confidence I had, you're right, but
you
like
can't have
I
much.
just it's weird to me because I don't know, it's just strange the weird use of capitalization, the weird use of commas, the weird use of colons. These things are the lack of a comma in some places. What? I guess it's like the application department isn't as rigorous with their own writing as they expect you to be. I don't know.
Sometimes they didn't even go to law school themselves. I mean,
Hmm.
I remember somebody at Hastings back when I was there, somebody who worked in the admissions office who had an MBA,
Yeah.
not a JD.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mean, the dude's not a lawyer. In fact,
They're in
I would say
sales, right? That's
exactly. And most of the people who are in these admissions offices are not lawyers. They
yeah.
might have gone to law school, but they're not practicing law.
Yeah.
They're working in the admissions office. They're selling JDs.
Mhm.
So the fact that, this is it's kind of like marketing copy basically.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised
Yeah.
that the first draft isn't good.
Yeah.
Tell us about the challenges you have faced and how they shaped you to be able to contribute to the program and student life at Lincoln Alexander Law. Sounds like any typical personal statement will answer that question.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's true about all these, right? They're very open-ended, and that's for your benefit.
It's just the thing that we would say about that prompt in particular is that they really don't want to hear that much about the challenges. They want to hear about you overcoming the challenges.
Yeah, well, just ignore all these prompts and do what we're telling you to do.
For the most part, I mean,
Yeah.
some of them seem like that number 3, the third one is definitely asking you to reflect on your identity.
And its
That's
intersections.
Yeah, I don't even understand that question. Number 5, for candidates who did not pursue post-secondary education or have been out of an academic environment for years, how do you feel your background has prepared you for success in law school, and how has it prepared you to contribute to law school? Oh, so they're asking you there to talk about your work experience.
Mhm.
Chris now comes back and says, by asking these questions, law schools almost require applicants to refer to their mental states, focus on conclusions rather than facts, and emphasize what they will do in the future. Does the demon advice still apply when answering this style of question? I'm having difficulty removing references to mental states when answering questions about why I'm motivated to do something. I'm not driven by physical sensations to pursue a law school education. I'm motivated by thoughts, feelings, desires, and beliefs. There also seems to be an emphasis on what I am going to do rather than what I currently do or have already accomplished. I look forward to hearing the LSAT Demon take on answering this style of question. Thanks for all the great advice and resources. Respectfully, Chris.
Yeah, I think, Chris, you need to recognize that the schools are asking you an explicit question, but they're not necessarily doing a great job of conveying what they really want to know about you, which is, are you qualified to do well in law school and beyond? And the best way to answer that question is to show what you've done
Yeah.
well. And you can always take facts about what you've done and easily use those facts to show why you will be successful in a few sentences or why you want to go to law school. For
Yeah.
example, if you worked as an intern at an immigration law clinic, then when you say later in your statement that you want to go to law school to work in immigration law, the evidence is there to back up that claim. So it's not as empty or hollow as so many other people's personal statements, which just pontificate idea or, throw out ideas that are cheap. Like you said, they're
Yeah.
cheap. Anyone can say, I want to do X, Y, Z.
Don't take our advice about personal statements as if it's gospel that must be absolutely followed. When we say don't talk about mental states, we're just telling you that we've seen 1,000 personal statements that are nothing but here's what I think, here's what I believe, here's what I felt, here's what I feel, here's what I want. And those personal statements are so hollow because they just if you don't put facts in there to back up the things that you're saying, it's just like anybody could say those things.
Yeah.
So we don't want you to have an just a puff piece of a personal statement that doesn't include any good facts about you. We want you to emphasize the good facts about you. But if you feel like you need to say, here's what I want to do, and many of these prompts are definitely asking you, what do you want to do with your JD? Then put a sentence or two in there. You've answered the question. Just make sure that it's not your entire personal statement because so many people fall into that trap.
Well, I also want to emphasize that by talking about what you've done, you can and often are answering that question. The question
Right.
is, what do you want to do? Why do you want to go to law school? And you're saying, I want to go to law school because I've worked in the legal department or adjacent to a legal department
Right.
in some company and enjoyed it immensely and done very well. So that answers the question more effectively than just saying, oh, I want to pursue corporate law.
Yeah. The people that they're really writing this for, I think, are people who are right out of college with a major that seems like, huh? Like I was an exercise science major and now I'm applying to law school.
Mm.
Okay, connect the dots for me on that. Or people who were out of school for a long time but did something that's not legal adjacent at all. So I've been a professional trombonist and I love the trombone so much. And you're writing your whole personal statement about that. There, if you focus on your achievements, the
Yeah.
reader is still going to be going, hmm,
Yeah. Do your achievements lead to law school or not? If they don't, then you're going to need to take a couple sentences, maybe a
connect the
paragraph
dots.
to connect them. But you're still doing that in the context of those facts, not just an entire statement, like you were saying, of empty
Yeah.
promises.
If you've
Yeah.
worked in a law firm, I don't think you need to do any of this explaining. If
Hmm.
you've worked in any kind of corporate environment, you have a background in like high finance, and now you've got it's there's just so many avenues that do feed sensibly into law that I think most people don't even have to worry about this. But I can see how certain undergrads and certain people with like kind of, whoa, that's a different professional background. You might need to connect those dots a little bit more than other applicants might.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Keep us posted. Email daily at lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.